group of modern-day mountain men go in search of an historic lifestyle. An Idaho man keeps alive the centuries-old tradition of making black powder guns. And a scenic tour takes flight over Idaho's Great Lakes. Hello, and welcome to Exploring Idaho. I'm Roland Barris.
And I'm Dee Sarton, and we're here at the Idaho State Historical Museum in Boise, where we begin our show today with a journey into the past.
You know, back in 1803, President Thomas Jefferson paid France a little over $19 a square mile for a huge, unexplored area of the American continent called the Louisiana Territory.
And then 3 years later, in 1806, explorers Lewis and Clark returned with the news that the land was rugged, mountainous, and wild. But for the reckless few who were willing to brave the harsh conditions to trap for furs, the American West held the promise of great riches. And so the era of the mountain man was born. It was relatively short-lived, beginning after 1806 and lasting until about 1840. But the romance and legend this period created has generated scores of modern-day mountain men in search of that historic lifestyle.
My mother, 40 years ago, said I was born 100 years too late. So I've been a mountain man at heart all my life. And this is how I do it.
Somewhere in the wilds of North Idaho, hunters stalk the hunted.
That's the kind of thing you keep looking for, you know, if you can cut a fresh sign and then follow it to wherever you went to.
They track, trace, and follow.
Hit here, here's the other toe, and then he could have probably boiled straight on through.
The hope? To bring down an elusive Idaho elk.
Yeah, there's a old elk bed right there. It's a good sign that they're in here, but not real recent.
Look closely, though, and you'll slowly realize Dave Benson, Vern Ely, and Jim Baylargen are more than average hunters. With 19th century clothing, black powder rifles, and all the historic accessories, these are modern-day mountain men.
Our rifles are all made to a particular period or a particular area where that style was used. And same way with our costumes, are all more or less geared to one period or one area or another.
They call themselves buckskinners. Their firearms range from an 18th century French long gun to a Lancaster rifle from the 1840s to an 1820s J. Henry rifle used for trade with the American Indians. All are muzzle loaders, that is, rifles capable of being loaded only from the muzzle.
A man's rifle was his pride. He owned as nicer gun as he could afford because it was like he's a new suit today. You get the best you can because you show it off and how good you were or how expensive weapon you could carry.
These weapons are replicas, handmade with a labor of love by their owners. Loading them is a time-consuming procedure.
I'm pouring a little powder.
It starts with pouring a measure of black powder into the bore.
That's 75 grains.
This is followed by a piece of cloth called the patch.
Gotta wet it.
The round musket ball is laid on top of the patch and forced into the mouth of the barrel. Then the whole works is hammered down the length of the rifle with a ramrod. The charge is ignited by a small amount of primer powder placed in a shallow cup called the pan.
Yeah, it's ready to go.
The whole thing is lit off by sparks when the flint strikes against metal. The resulting shot sounds somewhat like a small cannon going off next to your ear. But these men will attest, once they tried muzzle loader guns, they never went back.
You get a little black powder in your nose, you can't leave them alone after that. A lot more challenge to it, a lot more of the chase. And not only that, but black powder is more than just the shooting. There's your skins, your costume, and all the other activities that go with it that we do that just makes it more fun, more things to do besides just go out and shoot something.
The challenge of hunting with a muzzleloader is twofold. First, the time it takes to reload allows for only one good shot. And second, the shot is only accurate from 50 to 75 yards.
So I've got to close in. I've got to make sure of a clean shot when I do shoot. There's no 400-yard cross the canyon shots. I've got to be right on top. And that puts a whole lot more stalking into it, and it puts a whole lot more hunt back into hunting.
Oftentimes, the limits result in a full day of hunting, but no elk in the bag. Luckily, these hunters don't have to depend on their rifles for their livelihood. And up here, in the quiet, untouched beauty of North Idaho, each man finds his own way to enjoy the challenge.
You get out there, you get to hunting, there's all kinds of things run through your mind, and you get to huffing up a hill and looking, and then you'll sit down and take a break, and you just look out over the country, and you tend to just get a feeling, you know, that probably what they would have had, you know, out hunting.
I think I'd go back in a heartbeat if I could. Fully realizing all the hardships and the lack of medicines, modern knowledge, everything else. The old times were not simpler. They just had a different set of problems that they had to contend with. But it would be sure nice to try it. So, in a small way, that's what I do here like this. I realize it's not the same, but it touches on it a little bit for me.
And in some ways, it's a tribute to the bold adventurers who managed to carve a life for themselves out of an uncharted wilderness.
You really could be back at that period if you wanted to imagine it. Why not? That's part of the fun of it.
What an experience. And in Idaho, a special hunting season is designated for muzzleloaders, and guided trips are available. So later on in the show, we'll give you a phone number you can call to set up your own trip. But right now, I'd like you to take a look at this. Traps like this are the reason why mountain men braved the rugged West. In the first half of the 19th century, beaver pelts commanded top dollar in Europe. The furs were used in clothing and hats at the height of fashion. So brave young men pressed westward, enticed by the promise of wealth. Long before the gold rushes, it was the lure of fur that first conquered the American West.
It takes patience, perseverance, little profanity. The 3 P's. It will prevail at all times.
Members of an Idaho muzzleloader group take aim at a recent rendezvous. Mountain man rendezvous are becoming more and more popular in Idaho. Several events take place during the summer months. The members gather usually for the weekend. They wear only traditional clothing, camp and cook with traditional tents and utensils, and, of course, only target shoot with classic muzzleloader guns. The muzzleloader was first crafted by European gun makers back in the 16th century. This is a German matchlock that was made in 1600. If you take a close look at the guns behind me, you'll notice each smooth finish is unique. That's because each gun was forged, carved, and crafted entirely by hand. In the assembly line society of today, that one-of-a-kind craftsmanship is hard to find. Maybe that's why a man in Orofino, Idaho, took it upon himself to return to the old ways and build original-style muzzle loaders with little more than his own 2 hands.
A challenge to take a raw piece of wood and all the parts, lay them out, and come up with a finished product that shoots well.
Sounds simple, but like most things that sound simple, building a custom muzzleloader gun is actually quite complicated.
I'll leave that one for now. It takes patience, perseverance, little profanity. The 3 P's. It will prevail at all times.
Phil Johnston should know. He's been building custom muzzleloaders in the shop in his basement for nearly 20 years.
That'll be the center line of my barrel.
Over the years, he's managed to pick up a few things about how the old boys did this back in the 1800s.
There were several schools, areas, of gun making. There was Lancaster, Allentown, which was not too far from Lancaster, but yet the travel time was so great that each area developed its own style.
And that, says Phil, may be the most important lesson for a student of gun making. Each craftsman had his own style, something Phil thinks we've lost sight of these days.
We're locked into the mindset today where everything is done in presses and the wood is all shaved with a follower. And each piece is an exact replica of the one before it. Whereas in this muzzle-loading business, every gun was handmade. Every gun had its own character, its own disposition.
That's not to say that Phil won't employ the occasional help of modern conveniences.
Black & Decker has been a great help.
Some things are better left to power tools.
That's deep enough.
But for the most part, Phil's methods vary little from the early days. He often thinks about those old craftsmen while he works.
I think they were hardy old boys and a marvel at the quality of the work they did and the conditions. They didn't have all these fancy electric lights that we have today, and I'm surprised that most of the old boys didn't go blind. They were working in dungy little shops, no windows, very few windows. The only light they had was from those windows, and when it got dark, they just couldn't do much because daylight doesn't give you much opportunity. It's amazing what they accomplished with what they had at the time. Now, we'll turn this over and we'll start shaping the outside of it.
This 1860s style pistol would have been a rich man's gun. It was worn on the hip as a backup to a rifle. The handle is solid maple, the same wood used in the old days. Phil shapes it, not with any pattern in mind, but with an eye for balance.
Just feeling of it. I'll take it out. Nope, doesn't feel right. Doesn't balance right. Go back and take some more off.
When it does finally feel right, it will look something like this: polished, detailed, and functional. Just like every other gun that has come out of this shop, but never quite the same as the one before it.
I give it the best I can. I don't cut a corner. I don't say that my workmanship is as good as theirs. But when I turn it out, I look at it and I tell myself, that's the best I can do. That works very well. I'm well satisfied.
Phil has built close to 24 muzzleloader rifles and pistols, but he says he's not in it for the profit. It's just a great hobby for him, and what an interesting craft.
Isn't it, though? And as you know, Roland, here at the Idaho State Historical Museum, they have a large display of antique muzzleloaders, and probably one of the most famous is this one right here. This belonged to Buckskin Bill, and Roland, a lot of people consider Buckskin Bill the last of Idaho's mountain men. He lived in a two-story cabin he constructed himself along the Salmon River. Buckskin was originally from Oklahoma, but moved to the Salmon River during the Great Depression of the 1930s. He grew a vegetable garden, hunted with his long gun, and developed quite a reputation. He died in 1980, but even today, his gun is one of the most popular pieces here at the Idaho State Historical Museum.
Exploring Idaho. We'll be right back. Idaho's Great Lakes sprawl out in a sparkling display. Join us for a scenic air tour of Lake Coeur d'Alene, next on Exploring Idaho. Idaho has its own version of the Great Lakes.
I guess you could say that. Pend Oreille, Coeur d'Alene, and Priest Lake sprawl across the Idaho Panhandle with sparkling beauty.
Exploring Idaho's Jennifer Eisenhardt joins us from up north with news of a Great Lakes attraction.
Dee and Roland, if North Idaho could be defined by any one element, it would be water. The Great Lakes of the Panhandle cover miles of territory and reach depths of hundreds of feet. But from the ground, it's difficult to fathom the size of these big lakes. That's why every day tours take to the air for a bird's eye view. Nestled calmly in the vast gaps of the Selkirk Range lay Idaho's big lakes. Long and snake-like Coeur d'Alene, its smaller neighbor Hayden, then Pend Oreille, the largest lake in Idaho with depths beyond 1,000 feet, and furthest north, wild and scenic Priest Lake. They are the sparkling gems of North Idaho, no matter how you look at them, but take a scenic flight over them and you'll gain new appreciation.
Okay, we'll just go ahead right through here.
Brooks Seaplane Service has become a fixture on Lake Coeur d'Alene. Since 1936, the family-owned business has shuttled passengers above the pine-forested hillsides, beyond the reach of rolling mountains, and into the endless blue sky over these wide-reaching waters.
It gives a real grasp of how big the lakes are, how much space that we're lucky enough to have in northern Idaho.
Colorado businessman Scott Faskin is visiting Coeur d'Alene and wants to take in the surrounding scenery.
You can see so much more in a quick amount of time. You can get up and there's quite a lot of freedom. And if you see something over there, you just turn to the right or left and you can reach it real quickly and easily.
Today, you probably see about 80, 90 miles, real clear day.
From our vantage, we can see blue-green forests that stretch all the way through Canada to the north of us. Pilot Grant Brooks directs our attention to the fingers and bays that reach out below us.
Called Echo Bay, this first bay on our left. Now underneath the left wing is Carlin Bay. This next bay in front of the wing, the left wing, is Powderhorn Bay.
Geologists say tens of millions of years ago, glaciers scoured out Lake Coeur d'Alene. Today, summer homes line the 125 miles of shoreline.
Northern Idaho, and especially Coeur d'Alene and the lake, is world-renowned for a beautiful setting.
Up here, the time goes by quickly. As we turn and position for landing, the sun glitters off the water below, as if in a final sparkling goodbye. Our brief aerial view of this great northern water is over.
Watch your head when you come through there.
All right, thanks, Grant. That was beautiful. Dee and Roland, Brooks Seaplane Service offers flights year-round as long as the temperature is warm enough, and it is a beautiful view from the sky. So next time you want to try something different, give these guys a call.
Well, Jen, it looks like a great trip. Do they offer flights to any other areas?
Yes, they do. They fly also up to Lake Pend Oreille, just north of here. It's a little bit further flight, beautiful scenic flight as well. And also, Brooks Seaplane Service offers charters. So if you'd like to go on a fishing charter or just another scenic flight to a different lake, they can take you there.
That really looks like fun, Jen. Thanks a lot.
And now it is time for our Idaho Puzzler. The state of Idaho is dotted from border to border with state parks, 24 in all. Can you name the oldest state park in Idaho? In fact, the oldest state park in the Northwest. We'll have the answer when Exploring Idaho returns. Could you name the oldest state park in Idaho and in the Northwest? It's Hayburn State Park near Plummer in North Idaho. Hayburn State Park was established by an act of Congress in 1908 and named in honor of U.S. Senator W.B. Hayburn of Idaho.
And Roland, campers and travelers can find out everything they need to know about Idaho's state parks in this new guidebook. The guidebook offers information on reservations and fees, shows maps of each of Idaho's 24 parks, and offers information specific to each area. The Idaho State Park Guide is available from the Idaho Department of Parks and Recreation, and it's absolutely free. So to order your own guide, call 1-800-423-8597.
Well, it's just been a lot of fun poking around the Idaho State Historical Museum in Boise today.
It's an interesting place. They maintain displays on everything from the Mountain Man era to the Gold Rush days, even the Chinese influence on Idaho.
It's just a great place to learn about the interesting history of our state.
Yes, it is, and we are so glad that you decided to go exploring with us today. We'll see you again next time.
If you would like more information on any of the stories you've seen in our show today, call for a copy of the Exploring Idaho Field Notes. The field notes contain valuable information on who to contact, where to go, and how to get there. Best of all, Exploring Idaho Field Notes are absolutely free. So pick up the phone and dial 1-800-443-2461 to receive your copy of this month's Exploring Idaho Field Notes. Be sure to request the current show number.